Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Kristen Kornienko, the coordinator of the Global Studio, and we're really excited to have Rasha today to give us a workshop on creating architectural videos. I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. I'm a fifth-generation white settler, now living and working as an uninvited guest on the lands of the Secwepemc Nation. Kuksjam, or thank you. The lands within the modern political boundaries of British Columbia, Canada, were not negotiated by treaty and are to this day unceded. A Splatcheen Band Council member described the Secwepemc traditional lands to me as roughly defined by the Shuswap Lake watershed and occupied since time immemorial by the nation's diverse cultures. This region was rich in sockeye salmon, furs, timber, and gold. Immediately around where I stay are the Splatcheen, Nisconlith, and Squilax bands. There's archaeological evidence of their presence dating back over 15,000 years. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the ancestors and people of these lands for their acts and ongoing inclusive activities towards healing and conciliation, and in defense of the land, water, and creatures of this region. So here is our new Global Studio website that I have put together, and I'll be continuing to update it with both the events and the recordings of the events, and all of our past events are available on this site now. So you can see that we have what we're calling our back to school series, even though I know for some of our AU students and our South African colleagues, this isn't the traditional start of the school year, but for a lot of people it is. So for the next few weeks, we have every Wednesday, we have something going on. So this week it's Russia, and then next week we have the supernatural and creating documentary films. And we have community engagement with the AEDE. And then we have the start of our global sketching school, which we're really excited about. And that's going to be a 7-session activity. And just quickly, the sessions are subject, light and shade for session 1, color, figures and narrative, drawing the unseen, degrees of difficulty, trees versus buildings, serial vision and storyboarding, and then the final review and exhibition of student work. So we're really excited to be doing those. And if you scroll down, you can read about each activity, and then there's the registration for each event alongside the description. Or you can just go straight to the registration, which takes to our AU website, where we have all the news and activities that are going on. So just so everyone knows now that that's available to register directly there. And now I'll hand it over to you, Douglas, to introduce Rasha, who I know I'm really excited for your workshop today, Rasha.
Thank you, Kristen. I just wanted to thank Kristen as well she's done an incredible amount of work to get the website up and going. And, you know, these projects, the Global Studio, they always take a little bit of time to get really moving. We've been doing it for a while, but now things are really picking up. And so it's very interesting to think about as well. What are we going to do next March when the Global Studio is over? And if people are interested in continuing this, I'd very much like to hear from them. We've got partners all over the world. If you're enjoying the series, we'd like to hear from you about how you might like to see it continue. There are funding opportunities which we may be able to tap into, and certainly those are things that we'd really, really, really like to do. And again, I would encourage any of you to participate in the activities that Kristen was just mentioning. If you're an AU student, we actually can provide you some extra bonus marks for participating in these things because they're well worth it. If you're at another school of architecture, part of the Global Studio, you may be able to do the same. Even if you're not a student of architecture, though, we have these approved by various professional organizations around the world. In Canada, they're approved by the Ontario Association of Architects and the Alberta Association of Architects for continuing education credit. So if that's of interest to you, they're well worth attending as well. Just a little nudge, the sketching camp in particular, which Henry Sang from our faculty and David Kovo of McGill are running, will be superb. It's almost something you don't want to miss if you're an architect, because it will so greatly enhance your skills. But now I'd like to turn to today's event. And I was sort of scanning through the internet and looking at YouTube videos for materials to help our students at the Center for Architecture. And I came across this YouTube channel called Surviving Architecture. And I started watching it and saw that there was just this incredible array of really beautifully done and very, very straightforward and easily digested videos about all the things that a student would need to know in architecture. So I contacted this YouTube channel, happened to be Rasha, and we started an email conversation. And as the Global Studio unfolded, we realized that what we really wanted to do was tap into Rasha's expertise so that she could share it with students around the world about how to create your own content. And that's something that's absolutely critical to the Global Studio. We really want to do content co-creation with students and faculty members around the world and share them as open educational resources. So in contacting and speaking with Rasha, she's a architecture student doing a master's in Birmingham. And this is one of the things that she does in addition to her studies. And I'm going to let Rasha, she's going to share with us a video and then do some activities with us. And I think I'd just like to hand it over and let the video run, because I think you'll really enjoy it. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. But thank you in particular, Rasha, for setting this up for us.
Well, thank you for having me, Douglas. It's what you're doing here at these global studios is something really exciting. And I wish when I was starting out in undergraduate, I wish I knew about these things. I wish there was a lecturer who had the same passion and same just willingness to really support students around the world. So I think what you're doing is really great. And I am just beyond happy to be here today. And I hope that you guys enjoy the video and learn something from it today. So if you want to get started, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Kristen, I think it's over to you.
I'm just about to start sharing, Douglas.
Video will draw people in, tell a compelling story, and take the audience on a visual and auditory experience. Hi, I'm Risha Stodo, and I've been making videos for a long time, from GIFs to slideshow to content on YouTube in the form of tutorials. In this workshop, I'll be sharing my tools, the tips, and the software that I use to create my architectural videos. And by the end of this workshop, hopefully you will know how to create videos with a purpose, record video and audio, screen capture, and then finally understand the overall editing process so that you can make your own architectural videos. I went into architecture because I loved to draw and I was good at math, so I thought that architecture combined both of them. But I had no relevant experience whatsoever, and wow, was I underprepared. Suddenly, I was expected to know so many different softwares, so I went to YouTube and I thought that I could find tutorials or videos that can help me. But unfortunately, I didn't find a lot of content that related to architecture. So in 2017, I decided to create my own YouTube channel called Surviving Architecture. And on that channel, I upload videos like sketchbooks, portfolio reviews, how-to tutorials, how to design, all kinds of different videos, things that I wanted to know when I was a first-year architectural student. So first, I started making videos on YouTube as a hobby, and it felt like I was speaking into this void where no one else can hear me. But then after a while, maybe a year or two, I began to receive a lot of comments and messages from people telling me how the videos have been helping them. And the overall support and the positivity of the whole community has just pushed me to continue making YouTube videos. So why should you make videos? Aren't text, images, and drawings enough? Well, have you ever nodded off during a presentation? Or maybe a lecture, because we all know sometimes more often what is needed to get the student or the viewer engaged is a concise script, meaningful graphics, audio, and editing. For a field and a profession that is very visual like architecture, you want the viewer to be engaged in what you have to say, and videos are the best way to do that. Videos are so engaging and can convey complex ideas in a short amount of time. There are so many advantages for you, the creator, when you make YouTube videos. First of all, it's a creative outlet, so you get to experience yourself in a whole new medium. And second of all, making videos involves a lot of skills. Skills that over time you pick up and you improve on without realizing how much progress you have made until you have, whether it's editing, lighting, camera position. Not to mention that making videos involves a lot of public speaking, which is very important in architecture because you essentially have to sell your concepts to clients. Similarly, when you're making videos, you want to sell your ideas to the viewer. So overall, when you're making videos, you are learning something every single time. And also you are growing your passion for the creative field, as well as learning new skills that might help you in your career. So hopefully I've convinced you to start making videos. So now let's talk about the process. My process starts with one simple question, which is, what is this video for? It might sound obvious or overly simplistic, but if you don't have a clear answer to that question from the very beginning of your process, you'll waste a lot of time recording and shooting things that aren't important, or the sorting out of footage in your computer might also be overwhelming. And then also you will struggle with a complicated story until you finally figure out what the purpose of the video is. So if you have a clear direction of the purpose of the video, then you can focus your creative work on that. If you were to build a house, you don't go and build a house with just a concept that you came up with. I mean, I wish it was that easy. Coming up with concepts alone is hard, don't get me started. You need to have a plan, figure out how many rooms you want, where the plumbing's gonna go, how many windows, where's the lighting, the materials, and all sorts of things that I'm sure you are already aware of. And it's kind of the same thing with making videos. You need to ask yourself a few questions. What is this video for? What style of video I'm gonna create? And what is my final output? Knowing your target audience when you're creating videos is extremely important, because a video that is created for, let's say, a job interview will look very different from, let's say, a video essay or maybe a short animation that you post on social media. You should also know the style of video that you're gonna create. Are you gonna create any drawings, any visuals, any graphic? Are you gonna screen capture? Those are all questions that you need to ask. So now let's take a look at a few examples of the different video styles that you can create. The first thing that you are going to need is a SketchUp model of your design. Like, I built this, like, who am I? 7 free websites for site analysis in architecture, including free Digimap alternatives that you can use to create diagrams, plus easy 5-second site model. One of the first architects to break with modern architecture and seek a new framework based on a concept of interpreting forms and masses from the past, Hassan Fathi was a famous Egyptian architect, also known as the architect of the poor. Typefaces. The regular version is the standard version. Italic is the best suited to emphasize key points in text, citation, quotes, book titles, or maybe foreign words from a different language, etc. Now, making videos is a skill like any other skill. It takes time to develop and be confident with your work. Trust the process and start making videos, even if the first few ones are terrible. Trust me, I had my fair share of really terrible ones. Like, please don't scroll down and watch them. At the end of the day, it is such a creative and enjoyable process, and in time you'll get the hang of it. Now, you might be surprised, but before I shoot anything, I create an outline or a script as well as my shot list. This will give me an idea of what the final video will look like, and of course this looks very different from one photographer to another. Some people will write the script word by word. Others, like myself, I will just write an outline with bullet points. I feel like that just makes the video a little bit more engaging. But that is generally a good place to start. Once I start filming, I look for new and fresh perspectives every single time, and my story evolves as I go. But having a plan or a shot list might help you break down this big task into small manageable tasks. That way you don't overwhelm yourself, and it will also help you gauge how long does it take to film or create this video. Once I have my general shot list, I will start filming my video. I generally like to create this wide angle shot so that you can establish the scene. Then a medium shot to focus on the subject. And a few close detail shots, also known as B-rolls, to keep the viewer interested. And I will try to use the camera in unusual situations and positions to provide more visual interest. B-roll footage is usually spliced together with A-roll footage to strengthen the story, create tension, or better emphasize a point. And stories or videos that rely mostly on A-roll footage might feel unbalanced, and that's why B-roll is so essential for creating videos. Imagine if I was just here talking to the camera for 1 hour. It wouldn't be as engaging as maybe adding a few B-roll shots, different scenes, and different visuals to help tell the overall story. Now, I shoot my videos using the Canon M50 camera with the kit lens. This is not the best camera that money can buy. However, it is a solid option for easily taking high quality stills and videos on the go. And I mount that on my tripod. I also strive to give my audio a lot of thought. Half of the experience of the video is also audio, and many people actually argue that audio is more essential than video. In any case, I use voiceovers to move the plot of the video. And to do that, I either record using the mic that is attached to the camera. So when I'm filming directly to the camera, you get high quality audio. When I'm recording voiceovers, I will use a different mic, which is called the Blue Yeti mic. And then I will also attach a pop filter to remove any of the pop sounds when you are recording your voice, which sounds a little distracting. To record your audio, you need to record in a calm and quiet environment with not a lot of background noise. But because my studio is not sound treated, after I've recorded my voiceover, I will transfer that onto Audacity to remove any of the background noise, as well as overall improving the quality. You can also record your voice in a closet, maybe surround yourself with a lot of clothes, and that will also reduce background noise. Now, for filming overhead shots like over my desktop, I haven't perfected my setup for this yet. I am using this overhead arm that you could attach to your desktop, and then you could put your camera and film. Now, lighting is a huge part of getting your footage to look more professional, relying mostly on natural light, which is arguably the most flattering light. The problem is that sometimes it's not as flexible, especially in the UK when the lighting conditions keep changing, so it's better to get at least a ring light or soft boxes. It's so important to keep in mind that there's so much more to videography than just the gear. The gear will only get you so far, and you can capture professional looking videos with your phone.
It captures people's imagination, I think, first and foremost. Architecture does affect people in ways that maybe architects understand only after a building's built.
People perceive architecture as simply being an object or a vessel within which people are housed. And that's clearly not what our sense of architecture is.
Well, the house itself probably represents the entire life of our family. We came here as a young couple. The house seemed utterly exhausted after the rearing of 3 teenage kids here, and it really just needed to have modern standards.
Tell an architect that it's due tomorrow, and they'll put in the 12 hours, and it might actually look the same as if they spent a whole week on it, you know?
So now, if you don't know, Audacity in brief is a free audio recording and editing software which is available on both Mac and Windows. So here I've already recorded my audio and I'm going to play through what I've got. And you can see here in the beginning that I've left a few seconds gap at the beginning. So there's a reason for that, which is what we're gonna start with right now. So go to your selection tool, left click and drag out this section here where we sat in silence. Now the reason we're doing this is because we want our microphone to pick up the background noise of where we are and then remove it from our voice recording. So after you've selected it, select Effect and come over to Noise Reduction. Select Get Noise Profile, you can select the whole track and then head over to Effect, Noise Reduction again and simply select OK. And just like that, the background noise is now gone. So now we're gonna add a few effects like Normalize and Compress, which if you are speaking like really close to the mic, sometimes you'll speak loud and sometimes you'll speak really low. So this helps keep everything in the same range. Head over to Effect, select Compressor and select OK. Then go to Effect, select Normalize and select OK. Now these are just a few of the effects in Audacity. There are so many more effects that you can use, like speeding up the audio, changing the pitch, adding a bit more bass to your volume, but these are generally what I use for most of my audio. I've added these effects fairly quickly and it's because it's only a short clip. So of course, the longer your recording is, the longer this process will take. However, the longer run is worth having a better audio. And I will also go over the final audio, clean it up, delete any mistakes that I've made, and I will also delete these right here, which are my breath. I seem to be always out of breath when I'm recording my audio, so I like to delete those as well. There's also music underneath the recorded voice, and music is really important in videos because it tells you how to feel. I generally like relaxing videos, so that's the type of music that I add into my videos. And I will alternate between different songs at different points of the video to keep it engaging. Finding high quality music for your YouTube videos can actually be such a big challenge because on the one hand you've got copyright issues with a lot of the good music, and then on the other hand, if you find free music, they are just terrible. They just don't fit the vibe, they don't communicate well. So my first recommendation for finding great music is YouTube Audio Library. So what's really good is you've got all of these different tracks that you can download to bring into your editing software for your videos. And you can sort them out by genre, by the mood, in case you already know what kind of vibe you want in your video. And this channel has got a lot of songs and a lot of different styles. There's also playlists, so you can click and listen to these playlists and see which one you like to add to your video. Now as for sound effects, I go to freesound.org and I will just search in the search bar whatever sound effect that I'm looking for, and I will just log in to download. And it's very simple to just drag and drop that into your Premiere Pro or whatever editing software you're using. You do have to check your license if you are uploading this on social media or YouTube, because some of them, mostly all of the ones that I've downloaded, are under the Creative Commons license, which means that you can use them, but other ones will have terms and conditions, so you can use the audio but you need to reference or credit the author. So now let's talk about screen recording. So the first option is OBS, which is Open Broadcaster Software. This is a really popular live streaming and screen recording software for both PC and Mac, and probably the biggest reason why it's so popular is because of the huge amounts of settings and control that you have over everything, and also the price tag. It's open source software, which means that it's totally free. So to share your screen, you just want to come to this sources panel and click the plus button and choose either display capture to record your entire screen or window capture to share a specific application or window. And then when we come over here, we can resize, reposition this, customize it for the area that we actually want to record. You also do have a webcam recording capability, so if you come back to sources, you can choose the plus and add a webcam. You can also create different scenes, so you can alternate and switch them. These are all of the different sources that you can add to the recording. So after you've sorted all of that, all you need to do is come over here and hit start to record. Now in terms of settings, if we go over to settings and then down to output and under the recording section, this is where you can dial everything in, from changing the recording quality, the recording format, the encoder that you're using on your computer to generate these files and actually do the recording. And for those of you that are really after advanced settings, you can come over here and switch your output from simple to advanced to unlock all of those additional settings. So this is really aimed for someone who's more advanced and want a lot of control feature in your recording and to be able to configure everything. But you can also ignore all of the settings, ignore all of the tools, and just record your screen and add it to your preferred editing software. Now there are tons of editing software, but when I first started out, I used to use Wondershare Filmora, and that also has the option to record your screen, so you can essentially record and edit in one software. And I find it so easy to use for beginners. It's definitely not as advanced as Premiere Pro, but again, if you are just a beginner and you want to be able to create really quick videos, then you can use Wondershare Filmora. Now this is a paid version. You can use it for free as a trial, and your outputs will have the watermark. So I would say that it is a great investment. I still use Wondershare Filmora when I'm recording my videos sometimes, because I do find that the setup is a lot easier to use than OBS, and OBS is more targeted to live streaming in my opinion. So in Wondershare Filmora, you can add the text and overlays and effects and images. It's way easier to navigate, like I said, than Premiere Pro. But I do use Premiere Pro now because it does have a lot of advanced settings and tools that I can use to create my videos. It's now time to edit. Once I've shot the videos, took the images, recorded my voice, once I've sorted out all of the files on my computer, I will add them to Premiere Pro to make a rough cut. So I know that Premiere Pro can be very intimidating to anyone who hasn't opened it yet. I know I was when I first started, but it's really simple if you kind of just do basic things and then kind of work your way to the top. So once you open a new project in Premiere Pro, keep the settings as they are. You can then import all of your images and any of your media. So for example, if you had any video scenes or music, and then you would just drag everything to the bottom and that will just create a sequence. And I like that I didn't change any of the naming from Enscape, so it kind of already automatically named it for me, so that when I put it in the sequence, they're already in perfect sequence. But you can also check it if you want to make any adjustments. And if you select everything, right click, and then you can go into speed and duration, because automatically Premiere Pro will make every scene about 5 seconds, and I wanted this to be a quick animation, so I changed it to be quicker. And then if you right click between the gaps, you can then ripple delete, and as you can see, that's a very simple animation and you can export it as it is. Now what I'm also gonna do is just press Ctrl and D, which applies the default transition in Premiere Pro, which is dissolve. You can change that in your settings, but just leave it as dissolve for now because it really does come in handy and it really looks nice in videos. Select my sequence and then go to sequence settings, and I'm gonna change that to 30 frames per second. It just makes the animation or the video a lot smoother. Just keep everything as it is and don't play around with it. So now I'm gonna also render my sequence. If you look at the top of the sequence, there's a yellow line. That means that it's not rendered, which makes your exporting a bit slower. It even makes your preview or when you play the video in Premiere Pro makes it slower. So if you render it as you're working, it kind of speeds up your process, and it doesn't take that long if you do it all of the time. Make the ones where it biodigrades a little bit faster, and you can also add text and titles if you wanted to even add arrows. It's literally, if you think about it, it's just like Photoshop but just for video making. And you can add text using the text tool as well, but I like to keep things minimal and very simple for me, so I'm just gonna remove that.
So now, let's say that you wanted to zoom in and make these diagrams bigger. What you could do is click on one of them and then go to Effects Control. And if you go to Scale, you can make the image bigger, which zooms it in. And you don't have to do it for each and every animation, because if you right click and copy, you can then paste the attributes to all of the other media in your sequence, and that applies it. Again, you can then render your sequence just so that it's plays smoother. And now we're almost done. All we have to do is just add music if you want it. And what's really nice is that if you aligned your media to the music, so whenever there's a drop or there's a beat, you would then change your clip. And that is pretty much it in Premiere Pro. It's really that easy. If you go into File and then Export, if you go to the top where it says Format, H.264, this is kind of the quickest and lowest file size, but it's still high quality. You could also change it into a GIF, but with GIF you can export audio. So if you leave it as H.264 and leave the bitrate as high bitrate, makes it smoother, but if you want a lower file size and a faster export time, then you would do medium, which is what I always do, to be honest. You could also render at maximum quality, and then that's it, really. Press export.
Now this is just the basics of editing in Premiere Pro, but I also want to share a few cuts that you can try out to add a whole lot more weight and meaning to your video. Now, this is by far the most interesting part when it comes to editing, and I enjoy it so much because you kind of understand movies when you're watching something on Netflix. It's really inspiring to understand the technique and the skill that it goes to making videos, because when you first watch videos and movies, you don't pay attention to all of those things, but now that I see them everywhere, and it's just so exciting. So anyway, the first cut is the standard shot, and this is exactly what it sounds like. It's the simplest shot. You put two clips together, there's no flair, no fuss, no meaning, nothing. It's very simple, and I find it works really well. I think that some people don't prefer this very sharp cut and they do dissolve fade, which I think is a viable option if you want to use that. I definitely use that when I want to dissolve meanings between the different shots, and I think it can work really well. Now, the next one is the jump cut. So the jump cut is in its name. You jump around the scene, you intend to speed it up, and this can be done for comedic effect, but can also be a way to demonstrate the passing of time. So you essentially take one long clip, you cut it up throughout the middle, and then you put it all together into one piece. And when you watch it all together, you have the jump cut. Now this is my favorite, which is the J cut, and it's simply leading into the next scene with the audio. So you just drag the audio clip from the next clip over on top of your current clip. And this is kind of a great way to segue into the next scene, and you change location, you let the audience know what is about to happen. The L cut is exactly what the J cut is, but flip, and then we have establishing shots or establishing cutaways, which are meant to kind of serve the purpose of informing the viewer where you are in the scene. And they do this all of the time in movies. So the next time that you're watching a movie, you can see how before you see the scenes or see the story that's inside the building, they will always show you an establishing shot so that you can see the building on the outside. And sometimes they'll even add city establishing shots, which are also great. And one very good example as well is architectural digest videos. You'll see a lot of B-roll establishing the property or building way before you even see the presenters. So the more that you're cutting to other shots and adding B-rolls, the more engaged your audience is, and the more likely that they'll have a better understanding of what's going on in the scene. And if you are filming a tutorial, you might necessarily not be using any of these cuts because you want it to be very straightforward. So it all depends on the type of video that you're making, and at the end of the day, just have fun with it. These are the templates that I've included, the filament schedule as well as the storyboard. So if we do have time, we can go over them if you want to fill them out, and I can look over it. So thank you so much for attending this workshop, and thank you to Douglas and everyone for organizing them. And let us know in the chats if you have any feedback or any questions that you might have. And let's just jump back into real life.
Thanks, Rasha. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was
I'm
wonderful.
like wanted to start working on a video right now.
Well, that was the point. I'm glad that it had that effect. Yeah.
Does anybody know, as Rasha said, people can ask questions either in the chat. It looks like there's actually a number of them already, or if people want to unmute and ask their questions, that's also, we can do that as well.
Rasha, would you like me to desk share the worksheet that you prepared, or should we just wait and see what people have to ask?
Maybe after the questions or during,
Okay.
like, depends. Did anybody have a chance to fill them out or have any ideas about them?
We have a question from Ahmad. If you'd like to unmute, has his hand raised. If you'd like to unmute and ask the question. Ahmad, did you want to ask a question? I'm not sure if you're muted or if you've decided not to ask the question. Okay, well, I'll ask a question just to get things started then. I noticed, Rasha, that you didn't bring up Adobe Rush, and I was wondering if you could comment on the use of Adobe Rush, because in videos work that I've done, that's the editing software that I've used. And I wondered if there were pros and cons or particular reasons why you don't suggest that.
To be honest, I haven't heard of Adobe Rush. Is it? I
It's
don't know.
part of the Adobe Design Suite.
Yeah, I think I'm not quite familiar with it. Adobe does have a lot of softwares, but I think, you know, when I first started out, the Filmora was the first program that was recommended because it was very user friendly, and then Premiere Pro and I think it's Aftercut for Mac. Those were the ones that were highly recommended by other YouTubers and just content creators. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna try it. And I found it quite easy to use. So I'm sorry, I'm not quite familiar with Adobe Rush.
Well, I actually appreciate that you sort of demystified Premiere, because I opened it and I was kind of overwhelmed. And so now I'm feeling brave enough to try to open it again and give it a try after your video.
Yeah, I had the same thought. Anybody that would tell me, you know, try Premiere Pro, it has so many different effects, and I was so nervous because you could tell the difference between Filmora and Premiere Pro. Filmora is you drag and drop, but Premiere Pro, there's a lot of buttons and clicks that you have to do, but the effects and the customization that you can do with your videos is so important and very flexible in Premiere Pro. So expect a lot of Google search. How do I make something bigger in Premiere Pro? That's what I do.
That's good to know too. It'll make me feel better. Okay, I think Ahmad is back. I see his hand up here. Ahmad, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, hello, sorry. I was on my laptop and I think the audio doesn't work on there, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
See, like, I just wanted to say, like, thank you very much, Rasha, for that video. Very helpful, very amazing. And you've personally helped me myself in my architecture career. I've been watching your videos for like nearly 3-4 years now, and I'm just amazed by how far you've come and now doing workshops. So it's very inspiring. And my actual question was that, how do you stay motivated with doing architecture and YouTube on the side? Because I can imagine how overwhelming like both can be. And now you've decided to do your masters, and how have you coped with it, and how do you feel like you can keep your motivation consistent going through in your future once you start, I don't know, maybe doing an architecture job, working in an office, and still have YouTube on the side?
It's a roller coaster. Sometimes I'm really motivated to create videos and I'm very inspired. Other times I am just, no, I don't want to do anything. I just sit in my bed and have a relaxing day. And I think that's okay too. I think on social media and online, there's this trend or just this notion of being super productive, that you literally have to work 24/7, all hours of the day. You cannot have any breaks. If you take a day off, then you're not productive. And I think that's wrong. And I think that's where people fail, is not taking enough breaks. And doing what you love really motivates you. So at first, when I was making content and videos, I didn't understand videography and I was just making videos out of the fun of it. But now that I've learned so much more and started to really dig deep into videography and looking into the shots that you can create so that I can understand films and understand the lighting and stuff, it's something that I am very interested in. And I think that's what motivates me, is that I just want to develop my skill. And if I get something out of YouTube, then hooray. If I don't, then I learned something and I practiced a skill that I like. So I think when it comes to motivation, expect that some days you're going to be very motivated, other days you won't feel like working, but just get back to it and then break it into like really small tasks. So instead of saying, I'm going to create this YouTube video that's 10-minute long and I'm going to add so many drawings and video effects and shots, break it down into small pieces. First of all, start the channel, create the name, then gather footage. When I first started, making videos used to take me maybe a whole 2 weeks just to get one simple video out, because I didn't understand anything. I didn't know how to create anything. And now maybe in about 3-4 days I can make one. So practice and just keep going.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks. I think we have a hand up from Ashley as well. Thanks so much, Rasha and Ahmed. Ashley, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. First of all, this is fantastic to watch through. This is actually my first time seeing you, but I have all of your information here on YouTube, for YouTube, sorry. I was curious as to what you would say your biggest challenge has been through this process, having to learn all of these different programs and all of that stuff.
I think my biggest challenge, and I think a lot of people can relate to this actually, is just comparison. Because you compare your work a lot in architecture for, drawings and style, but now I'm making videos. So first of all, I'm comparing the editing style of the video. Then I'm also comparing the actual content of drawing. So it's like this endless cycle of, is my work good enough? Is this video good enough? But again, just push those thoughts away and, as cliche as it may sound, fake it till you make it, act confident, believe in your work, all of those quotes that you can find on Google, but they do help. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rasha. Do we have any other questions?
I actually have one. I was wondering, Rasha, but this is a question for everybody. I think, if I remember correctly, you pretty much learned all of these skills yourself on your own time. But for those of us who teach architecture or who are studying architecture, do you think that these are skills that we should be teaching in our architecture schools?
That is a good question. I think so, because Definitely the public speaking side of making videos is one of the most important skill that you can have, not only as an architectural student, but just as a person. Communication is a very important skill. And I think what the positive thing that you could say that came out of COVID, if there were any positives, were that we've learned how to be online and to communicate in a new, different way. So videos are just an extension of that. And I think maybe it's something I think could be interesting, because at the end of the day, Premiere Pro is an extension to Adobe, and we are learning Photoshop, we are learning everything, and all of those skills are transferable. So why not?
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was very interesting. And I'd like to turn this back to, I'm an old guy, as you can see by my hair. But when I was starting in the profession, everything that we did was drawn by hand. And the interesting thing about that versus today is that when we drew by hand, everything took longer. So you had a lot more time to sort of process the data that was in front of you. And I think today I'm finding a lot of the people that I work with as a mentor are having a lot of difficulty in taking the time. And I'm just wondering if your process of editing helps you to absorb more and to expose yourself to more information to get the content more thorough. And I'll just leave that question there.
I think so, because I could sometimes I start with maybe 2 hours of footage of me talking to the camera, and then I add clips and drawings, and then it's only when you actually edit it and then you watch it over and over and over again do you actually refine it. And I think when you are editing, you have to let go of ego, like, oh, I made this footage, it has to be in the video. You have to kind of let that go and make sure that the content is conveying the ideas that you want in a concise manner, but also very thorough. And also, like, watching it over and over again, you pick up on things that you think, I think the viewer might not see what I'm doing. Let me add a text, an information, an arrow, just to make it even more thorough. So I think that, yeah, it does.
So just as a follow-up then, do you have anybody before you send it out, before you post it, review it with you in terms of content?
Actually, I do, yeah. Sometimes I've created this one video that was all about virtual reality, and I had a lot of sound effects. It's not on YouTube, but it was something for my master's. We had to submit a video. And how I got feedback for that was actually giving it to my mom. She watched it, and because it was supposed to be like a relaxing and calm environment, I could tell from what she's watching if at some point the video could have been improved, or at other points was it working. And I could say that positively, she was very relaxed and she almost fell asleep, but that's fine. That's not the point. Anyway, she enjoyed it. So yeah, I do get feedback. Sometimes I would send it over to my friends to watch it and think if there's anything that I missed, or even before I create my videos, I will try my best to ask on Instagram and other social media, do you have any questions about this topic, so that I am sure that those questions are covered in the video.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question they'd like to ask? We have a lot of great comments in the chat, but I don't see any specific questions there. Does anyone else have a question? I'll ask one more question. And I have my students do videos for a couple of their assignments in my teaching. And I often have the conversation with them about, and I wondered if maybe you could give some advice on how do you move beyond just being descriptive with your video? So how does it actually become informative or analytical, as opposed to just sort of walking through a space and describing it. So if you have some thoughts, that would be great.
For that, I'd say maybe take inspiration from other YouTube videos. There's this channel that I love the editing style and I love how thorough they are. It's called Vox, and they create a lot of documentaries which are quite analytical. They not just in the form of how they speak, it's also about the presentation style. So there was this statistic, and instead of speaking the statistic or showing that statistic, they actually made it into an activity. So there were two women that took building blocks and then they put them together. And I think that is a way that I've never thought about before. So it's a great way to be interactive, and it's a different format of videos. And I think that's the biggest thing. When I first started, I thought that formats of videos were essentially like just you talk to the camera, but or as you said, just be descriptive, tell a story, but there's so much more to it. If you add images, graphs, when it comes to architecture, maybe you could add walkthroughs, maybe drawings, and then link them together. So you would see the images as well as the drawings at the same time, and then you could make comparisons and link that. I think that's a great way.
Okay, thank you.
And Kristen, I have one more question as well, and it's sort of for the group. Russia has done a tremendous amount of videos on a wide variety of topics. Is there anything that whether Russia or anybody in the group thinks that they would like to see more videos on, or a particular topic that they would like to see covered? Because this would be a great deal of interest, I think, to all of us, if there's things that people would like to know more about. And it's what we're finding sometimes with the Global Studio is one of our most popular videos that's got the most views was our portfolio workshop, where it was pretty much a how-to guide to putting together an architectural portfolio. So if there's similar topics to like that, please let us know, or let Rasha know. But if anybody has a one that springs to mind immediately, it would be very interesting to hear.
I've actually got like a suggestion of a video, Russia. So I think what's very frustrating at university level, and I'm sure maybe other students can relate to this, is when you've got your plans of your floor plan ready, and your teachers tells you, okay, now you have to develop it, and you're there just okay, but like what does that mean? What does this word of developing your project mean in terms of design, in terms of execution, in terms of presentation, communication? And I just would think it'd be interesting to have, for example, create a video to just share your process of when you're done with the basic plan, and how do you develop it into making it more detail or add more depth to the actual plan. I think that would be something interesting.
It's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Anybody else have any ideas for future videos? Okay.
Rasha, would you like me to screen share the worksheet, and you could maybe just walk everyone through how you would go about using it?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Let me know where you'd like me to scroll to.
If you can go to the template for the storyboard sheet. Yeah, so this is my favorite part because as I was explaining the videos, when you look at videography and making videos, there's a lot of different scenes and shot styles. So you could cut it in a jump cut or cut J cut or L cut or cutaways, or even sometimes it's not just about the cut, it's about the actual shot itself. So you would notice in a lot of movies that they would use the rule of third. So the subject would be in the third, and then maybe the lighting, or sometimes somebody's walking through a corridor and the lighting hits him from behind and it's like overly exposed, and then it transitions into something. So whenever I watch something, whenever I'm watching either YouTube videos or films, and I pay attention to a lot of them, and I say to myself, wow, I really liked how they did that. And I don't know if anybody watches her music videos, but Dua Lipa, she released a few music videos where the transitions were, I think it was Heartbreak or something like that. But the transitions between the shot was really inspiring. So whenever I'd watch something like that, I would sketch it in that box, and I would say to myself, okay, this could work well for this project. This would be in this scene. So the scene number 1 where I'm talking about editing. And then this would be the shot number this. This could also change as you are editing, because you would refine the story, make sure that they flow really nicely. But this is just a nice way to get a few creative shots. And I would even write in the notes below, maybe the style of camera that I'm gonna choose, the lens, maybe it's a very zoomed in shot that transition into something, any effects. So when I'm filming this shot, I need to capture this type of audio. So I will write it to make sure that the microphone is ready to pick up on that audio. And in the next sheet, if you don't mind, is the filming schedule, which is very important because, and it's a great thing if you have, or you're struggling with time management. If you have a filming schedule, I don't use one as fancy as this. I just use it on my my Outlook online, so that I can just schedule things in. But this is also a great way. So you would write, for example, the project title, how many scenes you're going to film that day, a short description, the location, if you need to maybe film in the university and you have special requirement, so you need to ask permission if you can film in the university. Maybe you're filming outdoor and you need a special equipment, like a tripod or a gimbal or something like that. So I would write all of that down, and that way I just break it down into manageable pieces. So the first section would take maybe 2 hours to film. Okay, great, 2 hours. Next section, 3 hours. Next section, 1 hour. Okay, put it together. Now we have 6 hours of filming. So that just makes it easier for you to know how long something is going to take you. Yeah. So these templates are available for you to download. So if you have any questions about them, or you have an upcoming project and you would like my opinion on it, you can send them over to me and I'll be happy to take a look and tell you my thoughts.
Thanks so much, Rasha. That's really great. And I'll get your video up onto the website really quickly, because I'm sure other people also are feeling inspired to start this, and it'll be interesting to go back and get the names of the websites you referred to and the free software and so on. So so all of that combined will be great.
Yeah, I can add maybe to this document just the list of things that are required, maybe the different software, the resources, the website. I'll have that. I'll update the worksheet so that it's easy to find as well.
There's a comment here. I've got a suggestion, and that if possible, showing us what is your process of starting a design project, A to Z.
This has been on my content list for a long time, and I filmed a few sections of it, but it is a very long video, but it's something that I will definitely make because I think it's might be helpful to people. And helpful to me as well, because I know that everybody has a different process. So I learn as much as from making videos as much as you guys. So when you comment and tell me this is not my process, I do this and this, I learned. And yeah, that is a great suggestion. Thank you.
I think Ahmed has another question as well. If you'd like to unmute and.
Sorry for the questions. I'm just very excited about this workshop. It's really good. I just wanted to ask a question. Like, what is your vision for your YouTube channel and you in your career? Like, I know you might have not even thought about it, but like, what's your dream of with the YouTube channel? Are you just going to continue just on YouTube, or are you looking to do something else or something? Just be interesting to know. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question, Ahmed. I have so many dreams that it's not possible to complete as one person, but I'll list them all out for you so that you can motivate me and then send me messages, Rasha, why you're not working, because this is your dream. So I would like to, first of all, create my own practice called Surviving Studios. And there we would design projects and stuff like that. But then an extension from Surviving Studio, I'll have Surviving Academy or Surviving Studios Academy, where we would do things very much like what Douglas is doing, and very much like the Global Studio, hosting workshops and maybe even online courses on design, on renderings, on Photoshop and Adobe and things like that. And I created Surviving Architecture, but first of all, I thought about Surviving Studios because there's so many different studios when it comes to design. So there's landscape, interior design, fashion, there's videography, there's so many different fields of design. So I wanted to either create different channels, or maybe in the same academy that I can bring in the expertise of other people around the world. So someone who's very experienced at landscape could come in and give us lectures about how they do things. And so forth with design and things like that. And yeah, there's so many more ideas, but I don't want you to steal my business ideas. Just joking.
Well, to everyone, who's on the call, this is precisely what we would like to do in the next phase of the Global Studio. And so, Rasha, if you want, as the next phase of the Global Studio, to do one or two of those things that you were just talking about, but also to everybody who's on the call, if you've got a similar idea that you could see happening that would be a benefit to students around the world, then this is exactly what we're looking for. So the next phase of the Global Studio would be simply to ramp up all of the things that people have been doing and start sharing on an even bigger basis. And the grant that I'm looking at, the Global Studio was a relatively small grant, around $60,000 Canadian. The next level of funding up is the partnership grants, which are for 5 years and are $2.5 million. So we would have a lot more room to move if we were able to do something like that. They are very competitive, but they're also very powerful means of getting ideas out. So if people, I'd like to nudge people to start thinking about some of those things. But what you just described, Rasha, would be a perfect fit.
Yeah, and on that, actually, if anybody's on the call or knows anybody that is interested in being on the channel, so if you have a certain topic, we could have a chat over Zoom, and then we could put it on YouTube as well. So you'd be more than welcome. If you even have a nice project that you're really proud of and you want to share it, my channel is just as much as yours as it's mine, so that you can send me your work and we can share it and help other students as well.
That sounds great, Rasha. And I just to sort of whet people's appetites for next week, and maybe Rasha, you'd enjoy joining us next week as well. It's going to be Supernatural, which is a student group out of Dalhousie University, has invited Sobhaz Benjamin, who's a documentary filmmaker and community developer and advocate. and has made films for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, so CBC, and the National Film Board of Canada. So, so I think it's going to be a really interesting continuation from what you've started this week, Rasha, to the workshop next week. So hopefully we'll see everyone back for that.
And I'm hoping to join the sketching one.
Yes,
that
the
seems
sketching,
really
I think, is going to be fantastic. Absolutely, absolutely. And just everyone is welcome to share the website with, for the registration. And just to reiterate that all of the activities are free and open to everybody. So that's, yeah, I think it's a really exciting initiative. Well, unless you have some final comments, Douglas, or unless there are any final questions for Rasha, I'd like to just thank you again so much, Rasha. I know I've learned a lot. I make short documentary films with a group in Soweto, South Africa that I work with. So I've been like making notes here for the film that I'm working on right now. So that's been really great.
And I just wanted to share with everybody on a totally different, in the world of getting grants, sometimes it's very easy and sometimes it's very difficult. And sometimes you get an embarrassment of riches. And just a week or so ago, I got a small grant to do online music performances. And we're trying to match up different disciplines with music, experimental music. So I'll be doing some stuff on architecture and music. Others, we've actually got, I believe we're going to try and get Frank Zappa's nephew, who lives just down the road from me, who's a baker, but also plays saxophone, to do something on music and baking. The nature of the grant is such that it has to be focused where I live in British Columbia. But if you are a musician and doing something in architecture and you'd like to be part of it, we'll try and find a little bit of funding to make sure everybody gets something out of it. But if you're doing something, or if you know of somebody who's doing something interesting in experimental music and say architecture or art or sculpture or baking, let us know, because I'd like to try and include as many people as possible. This is kind of a sideline to the Global Studio, but I think it might be very fun as well. So, but also I wanted to thank Kristen, but very much thanking Rasha. This was a tremendous presentation today, and I think we all learned a tremendous amount from it. So thank you so much.
Well, you're most welcome, and thank you so much for having me. And I really enjoyed making the video, and I think that having a video is really great, because then everyone could rewatch it again, and still, as well as the recording of this session as well. So I think that's great too. So thank you to everyone that attended, and I hope to see you on the channel.
Thanks, Rasha, and thanks everyone for your questions. It always, enriches the activity for everyone when people ask questions. So thank you, Ahmed, and the others for all your questions. And with that, we'll say goodbye to everybody, and we'll hopefully see a lot of you back next week with for the next installment of Back to School. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.